I'm proud of the fact that we're using technology the way it should be used. Our motto is Et Nova et Vetra, brought to us to Bryanston from the founding father who came to us from Ormond College in Melbourne. And it's all about using the new things well and holding on to the good things that still work. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I want to drill down a bit now onto some of the working methods that research has shown really work if you're using technology. There's a rather good head teacher called Tom Sherrington, and you may find him in Twitter and blogging. He writes extremely well about this. And when he's talking about technology, what he says is the danger is doing it as though you are growing a crop on a plantation, rather than adopting the rainforest style of using technology. In other words, you don't just use one option. It's not all about iPads. It's not all about phones or laptops. You instead say it's a rainforest, it's a fertile environment, let's use what works. Let's use books, let's use smartboards, let's use iPads, let's use, still, where it's appropriate, actually quite didactic teaching. All of it works, so let's use it. The deputy head academic at Bryanston is an expert on Wordsworth. He swears by something called Google Docs, where actually you can share work both in the classroom and outside it. You can annotate work, you can talk to each other. It's a live document. So even when you're doing your assignment or prep or homework, whatever you're used to, your teacher is there within that sphere, and you can develop your ideas, and it stops you hitting brick walls. I think it's brilliant. It's about sharing, it's about collaboration, and the collaborative element, as Preetpal's mentioned a bit, I think is really important in this, because by and large, technology gets displayed or shown in the media as though it's always somebody on their own in a corner with a phone, that it's isolationist, compartmentalized, reductive. It's not necessarily the case. And some research that I enjoyed reading very much was done by Durham University and the Sutton Trust, a big educational charity. And Steve Higgins from Durham and Lee Elliott Major from the Sutton Trust paired up to look at how does technology improve learning? Where does it do it? And they found technology works better in pairs or small groups than it does either on your own or in large groups. It's about working in pairs, it's about collaboration. The next thing they discovered was that it's about focusing, being clear about why you're using it. Not using it all the time in a lesson, using it within a lesson for a certain period of time for a certain reason, and using it regularly throughout the week. It's a bit like learning vocabulary, in other words, if you want a linguistic parallel. Gains in attainment, and I think this bit is really interesting, tend to be much more obvious and much easier to recognize in maths and science than in literacy, which is fascinating, because I think that says something about the way brains work, and therefore also about certain subjects and how you learn them. When they do make gains in literacy, it tends to be in writing. Not in reading or spelling, it tends to be in writing. So there is something deeply creative about the use of technology. And if there is something that helps reluctant writers, then we're going to try and use it, because this is something that you want children to be able to do. Now, none of that research actually surprises me, because it's more about how things are used than what is being used. And it's about research, and it's about ideas, and it's about refining ideas, and it's about learning critical skills, which you won't be surprised to learn we've been doing since before Socrates. So, as all that technology develops, we've got to remind pupils that it's not just about the virtual world, it's about the real world, and it's about the skills of getting on with each other, which are at the heart of everything they're going to do, whether it's technical or not. And with that word heart, I just want to move a bit onto the pastoral area and say a very few words on that before I hand back to Preetpal. Now, I am 56, I'm ancient. And I do feel for this generation, because I can still remember being 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And I know that I did things that weren't clever, and that were really, really quite stupid. But I did not have somebody either taking photographs of me every moment when I did it, nor, even if some unkind person had a camera and did it, was it loaded up onto some sort of international pinboard forever and ever, amen. And that is an enormous part of the pastoral job of schools like ours and parents. We need, I think, very, very collaboratively to support our teenagers to know that one of the most important things in the world is your sense of self-esteem. And self-esteem actually comes from making those informed decisions.
Well, Sarah's right about the pastoral issues, and every single school that I visited, that I researched, has the same pastoral issues, has the same issues of how children are using personal technology. And it's a constant battle. And I think I'll move on to the things that, as a parent, probably trouble me the most with regards to technology. But I would say that I do agree with Sarah's point about what education should do, which is to furnish us with the skills. When I ran a boarding house, I always used to quote the Nanny McPhee line to the parents, which is, when you need me but don't want me, I'll be there. But when you want me but don't need me, I'll be gone. And that's our aim, really. Our goal with our students is to get them to a point where they can engage with the outside world. But this technology debate is not something we would have had 10 years ago, because the hardware was different. The software was significantly more limited. And our greatest challenges in any school environment, and actually at home as well, are the forms that it now takes. See, technology is in fact the infrastructure, and it's the infrastructure of the world that our children will move into. They'll organize their lives, they'll utilize technology, and they'll work in a way that we describe them as digital natives, but actually most of us here do as well. Most of us will have checked our phones at some stage in the last half an hour. But our job, therefore, in aligning with our goals, is to teach them how to use it appropriately and to use the appropriate machinery. So let me explain what we do, what the policies that we've settled upon and the logic behind them. Our youngest years have the least access to technology. Every night, the youngest year group must hand in and lock away all technology, laptops, iPads, phones, and they can have the educational elements, the laptops back for classes, but the phones are kept until free time. As the years progress, they have increasing access to this technology, and we have to show them the use of it. So we have rebranded, we have restructured our entire PSRE program. So PSRE, we used to talk about, I went to a boys' school, we had girls in the sixth form, and they were talking about relationships, this alien concept to me. Actually, our PSRE program talks about their emotional state, how they interact with each other, how the use of technology impacts upon their views of themselves. In the classroom, with regards to mobile phones, we've moved to a non-visibility policy. Because actually, if technology is becoming smaller, you may not see a phone, you think it's locked away, but that child can connect it to their Fitbit, to their Apple Watch. They can use the iCloud and connect it to what's happening on their computer. So we mustn't kid ourselves that just by removing it, it isn't there. We have to rise to the challenge of working with them. But this focus on non-visibility is to do with courtesy. If our teachers have made the efforts to prepare for that class and have prepared those lessons that are interactive, then we ought to show the courtesy to listen to them. We ought to show them the courtesy to engage with it.
I think that's absolutely right. I've just got a very few final things to say, and then Peter will see if there are any questions, and if there are, we'll see if we can answer them. I think I want to go back to that idea of isolationism. I always think of the Indiana Jones film where the Knight Crusader is all on his own in his Palmyran cave, waiting for a person who might come for the Grail. I think that, again, is a pretty good metaphor of a child who's glued to a technical device. It's not a fun place to be completely on your own. And the great thing about a boarding school is that you're not. There are all the activities that Preetpal has outlined. The bit that I think matters a lot is picking up his word behaviour. And some years ago, I went and visited an old Bryanstonian called Fred Sanger, who's the only UK double award-holding Nobel Prize winner. He did a lot of work on double helixes and insulin and DNA and that sort of stuff. And when I spoke to him, thankfully I took a sixth former with me who was really good at science, because otherwise it would have been over my head. When I talked to him, he was very clear about why he thought he was successful. He knew he was lucky to have his abilities. He knew that. But what he talked about was developing good habits, and developing good habits at school, which were about two things. One was about balance, that he wasn't just in the science labs all the time. He was involved in doing other things as well. The other thing that he talked about was good habits of working hard. And he was fantastically modest about his success. He said, yeah, sure, I was lucky to be given the smarts, but actually the reason I'm success is because I work hard. And one of the things that we try very hard to do is to plot that as a way of living for our pupils, so that they recognize that success comes through working with other people, being able to engage, not being on their own, and having balance in their life. So when I'm told that technology is the future, I'm afraid I don't believe that. Technology is no more the future than information is knowledge, and then knowledge is wisdom. Of course we need technology, of course we need information, of course we need to use it, but it's all about what we actively decide we are going to use it for and how we are going to use it.